Hello everyone. I am currently at Adventure Rig 48, and I play a lot of Genshin Impact. For the majority of my time playing, I've been building and researching and studying and testing, optimizing two characters, those being Mona and Diluc. And today I'm going to be showing you examples of builds and weapons, combos to best optimize your Mona build. I think this guide's gonna be pretty universally applicable. Like, no matter if you just pulled Mona, if you're trying to pull Mona, like you want to get Mona, you have Mona, you've been building her for a while. I think no matter what, you'll probably be able to come back with from this video with something useful. And I'll be going into great detail into what sort of damage you can expect with no food, pretty good team comps, honestly pretty good gear. I've been pretty lucky with the gear that I've got. um, with what I believe to be optimal artifacts. Um, yeah, just going to be going into full detail. I'm going to be showing damage showcases with crits and not crits, so you can see what sort of damage you can expect and what kind of damage you'll be getting the majority of the time. Alright, so now that I've laid out what this video is going to be, I'm going to first cover what sort of artifacts I believe are optimal on Mana. So for artifacts, for artifact sets, the best you can run right now, pretty head over the other ones, is Noblesse plus Heart of Depth, 2 pieces. Obviously you can have an off piece, usually it's your goblet. However, if you're farming, you're probably going to have to farm both of these um, to get decent things for them, like decent stats, substats, everything. So if you do get a Hydro damage 5-star goblet from one of them, it makes building your artifacts so much easier. This goes for every character. If you get the goblet of their element, you can just it just makes building them so much less a hassle. So I'm gonna cover also some artifacts that I believe aren't optimal, however, are decent, and you can think about running them if you maybe have already farmed them and you have good ones to put on Mona for now. So second best, I believe, would be Noblesse plus Wonders Trope is a pretty good one. Both 2-piece. That's a good one to run if you don't have time or you're farming resin, you're using your resin on other things, and you don't have time to build up your Mona yet. Other than that, if you got Mona early in the game, maybe you're just hitting like the 20s, maybe the 30s, and you don't have access to either of these, I would recommend running the Exile plus Scholar set, 2-piece each. That is a pretty good set to run until you can get Noblesse set. As for Heart of Depth, 4-piece, I would say don't bother. If you have it and you don't have Wonders Trope or Noblesse for some reason, um, you can run it, but there's really no reason to ever run the 4-piece of Heart of Depth. The 2-piece is where it gets all the value, and Noblesse 2-piece is too strong on Mona to pass up unless you literally cannot do it. Now, as for main stats and substats for your artifacts, you can't control the flowers main stat, but I'm running one that has crit rate and crit damage. Ideally, you would run both these two stats on every single artifact that you can. However, that's very unlikely. So for Sands of Eon, there's a bait here that you want to avoid. You never want to run an energy recharge Sands of Eon. It sounds like it could be good because Mona's passive with the bonus Hydra damage on her energy recharge. I've tried it with good substats. It is not worth it. It will never out damage an attack damage main stat artifact. It will never out damage it. It is a complete bait, you should never do it. As for the feather's the one you want to get to 21st, so you get the maximum value from your attack. Ideally, you want attack percent and crit rate on it. For every artifact on Mona, you want crit rate, crit damage, in the case that those aren't your substats, attack, and energy recharge. Those are the 4 best stats on Mona. You want those on every single artifact, ideally. However, Elemental Mastery is good. If you get a lot with energy recharge, it might just be worth running. However, you need to have one of your artifacts main stat attack percent. If you don't have this, your Mona will do very lackluster damage. As for your circlet, ideally you want crit rate or damage. If you get godly substats, you don't need a crit rate one, and then crit damage will be better. Because the thing is, you will crit when playing Genshin. Like, you're not gonna crit maybe every time you want to, but if you're fighting a boss, you're gonna crit it eventually. And when you crit with Mona, you just one-shot anything, if you do it right. So crit damage is probably her best stat. So if you can max out a crit damage goblet, or a crit damage circlet, that would probably be best in slot. I'll also be showing my artifacts here on screen while I'm explaining this, but you've been looking at that for a while now, so there's not much point in me saying it. As for weapons on Mona, any of the 5-star weapons are a decent choice. Skyward Atlas is the only one that I have. Skyward Atlas is good, however, you want to make sure, if you're running a Skyward Atlas, that you use her ult correctly, because if you have it, and you spawn the little wisp that does damage, it can proc your ult before you want to, so you want to make sure you do not auto attack when using Skyward Atlas until after you've popped your ult. As for what I believe to be best in slot, and I think most people who have played Mona, and most people who have Mona, and most people who have played the game for a while will tell you, the best book, basically unquestioned for Mona, will be the Widsith. Now, there's a lot to deal with the Widsith. You are seeing it on screen. It can give you 3 different buffs, and during my damage showcase we're going to be testing and figuring out, showing crits, not crits, different forms of damage amps, showing what Widsith proc will give you the most damage on your ult. And I'm lucky enough to have Refinement rank 2 on my Widsith. This is not necessary whatsoever for this to be the best in slot. This is basically a perfect weapon for Mona, a burst catalyst user. Now, before we get into the weapon showcase and any other sort of tips I'll be giving out, I want to talk about a form of DPS Mona. You run the same artifacts. They're too good on Mona to not run them, and she doesn't make good enough use of any other artifact. For DPS Mona, I would recommend Skyward Atlas. Probably would be more convenient than the Widsith. However, Widsith works perfectly fine. It's just your charged attacks will do a little less damage after your Widsith proc runs out. For DPS Mona, you want to, if you can pair her with a Constellation 2 Barbara, and that will increase your Hydra damage by 15%, I believe. You can get up to some pretty good Hydra damage numbers, and if you stack attack on her with a double attack main stat, Goblet, and Circuit, it's actually pretty viable, to be honest. It's not going to outdamage a Diluc or a maxed out Klee or characters like that. However, it's pretty decent. You can definitely kill any overworld mob with it. You just can't clear the Spiral Abyss as fast as you would ideally with any other character, basically. Like any max out 5-star character for DPS role, aside from like Chi-Chi, obviously. And one last thing before we go into the showcase, I'd like to explain team comps with Mona. Mona works very well with every pyro character in the game. She works decently well with Klee, absurdly well with Bennett, and very well with Diluc. Amber is fine. It's just a vaporized proc. And Zhongling is very nice too. And I haven't built or tested Zhenyan enough to give a good read on what she would, how she would pair with Mona. But I would imagine, just like any other pyro character, as long as you can proc vaporize, your Mona can reach pretty insane damage numbers. So lastly, before we jump into the damage showcase, I want to explain what talents you should focus first. It's pretty self-explanatory. You should always focus your ultimate first, and then your elemental skill, and then your autos last. But those are very unimportant unless you're obviously building a DPS Mona. So into the damage showcase now. I'm gonna show on screen. You can see the different signifiers of which buff you get from the Widsith. This one's attack. This one should be elemental damage, the one that buffs all your hydro and pyro and all your element damage. And then this one is elemental mastery. For the damage showcase, I'm going to show you a crit and a not crit with every single buff. And I'm going to show off a crit with the Skyward Atlas. And I'm going to show all the numbers, show you all the buffs, and show you how you can reach this damage too. Now, when you're proccing Vaporize with Mona's ult, there's something you really need to pay attention to, and that's your Vaporize proc cooldown. Because when you're proccing Vaporize with Mona ult, you're actually proccing it twice in a way. So what happens is you need to first put a Pyro Aura on whatever you're attacking. You can see me do that with Diluc R in the clips. And then you need to Mona ult, and then switch back to a Pyro character and use anything to apply Pyro again. But you need to obviously wait the 1.5 seconds, I believe is what it is. If not, just wait 2 or 3 seconds, it'll be fine. The way I timed it in the clips was I would wait for my Diluc's R to be 5.5 seconds away from being able to cast again, and then I would cast his E. Now, from all these clips and testing I've done, what I've gathered is that the best Widsith proc for one-shot damage with your ults, with everything, is going to be Elemental Mastery, by a pretty significant margin actually, by about like 10k, like almost 15k. And then second is Attack, and then third by not very much, like there's not that big of a difference between your elemental damage bonus Widsith buff and your attack Widsith buff. Attack is better, but they're pretty even. And then by 30k less than the lowest Widsith proc would be your Skyward Atlas. So Widsith definitely the way to go if you're trying to get those one shots on Mona. And I think in conclusion, it's pretty obvious Widsith is going to be the best option you have on Mona. Definitely for one-shotting things. Definitely for optimizing the ultimate damage. You definitely want that Widsith proc. It's absurdly valuable. Yes, my Skyward Atlas is refinement rank 1, and my Widsith is refinement rank 2. Um, but uh, it's just it's the difference is just too great. Um, and it's easier to acquire. I mean, maybe not since it's right up on Skyward Atlas right now, but if you get a Widsith, like, it's not going to be insanely difficult. You can get one. If you have a Mona, you can probably get a Widsith. Now, sadly, you can't control your Widsith proc. It would be nice, uh, but honestly, it makes the weapon really fun to use. It's kind of fun just memorizing what note equals what buff, and it'd be nice to be able to pick Elemental Mastery when you're going for these combos and pick attack when you're out just mobbing things with like maybe a DPS build. But you can't control that. It's a fun weapon. If you get it, you should definitely put it on your Mona. It is easily her best in slot weapon, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon, so I would definitely invest some resources in that. In conclusion, I just want to sort of bring up some random things about Mona. Um, if you are using a sacrificial fragments, maybe you don't have any other options really, or maybe you just don't want to put your good books on Mona because you don't have her leveled up, and maybe you want to take her somewhere. Uh, when you're using your E, only one can be out at a time. So if you get the sacrificial fragments proc, just wait for that one to run out and then put another one down. It lowers your cooldown a little bit anyway, so it's not the worst. But yeah, just be wary when you're playing with that. Next, I want to just warn you about if you're going for like this combo where you like apply Pyro and then apply it again after you ult. Um, if you're playing either DPS mana or you're just trying to amp the ult damage with your uh, C2 Barbara, it can kind of, I wouldn't recommend doing it. It fucks your consistency. Because if you just get too close and your Barbara ability um, applies the element to them, like if it wets them, it'll just ruin your whole thing and it'll like half your damage by like 2/3, and it's just not worth it if it ever happens. You can do it. It's very difficult though. I just want to say there's a bunch of YouTubers that have made a bunch of really good Mona guides, and this does not showcase in any way max damage you can do on Mona. Even without food, you can get Mona ult easily up to the almost the millions of damage. Um, with that though, you will definitely need Bennett. You would definitely need, um, you won't need, but a refinement rank Widsith would also make it really easy. You need a lot of investment in artifacts, and I think this is a pretty good baseline for if you're building Mona as maybe like your second beefed up character. Like maybe you have the Luke like I do, and you put all your resources into him, and you have him super stacked out with really good artifacts and a good weapon. Um, and usually you do have enough resources to deck out like 2 characters, and then with time you can add more to that. But with your second one, like if you choose your second one to be Mona, like I did, I think this is pretty accurate on what kind of damage you can get if you have a Widsith, if you're willing to put in some time to get artifacts. Um, if you want to put in time to get artifacts, you can definitely push these numbers up higher. Um, in random things with buffs like food and spiral plus 4s and things like that, I've gotten Mona ult to do like 300,000 damage. You can definitely get it up higher than that. That's just what I've gotten. I really need to farm for like a new feather and a new circlet. But other than that, and if you can get something similar to what I got, you can get these damage numbers pretty consistently. And yeah, you could definitely have this Mona build.